Howdy! How's all my friends out in YouTube land today? I hope this finds you well, and I actually hope this is working the way I planned for it to, because I'm recording this on OBS, and it's the first time I've tried to do that with YouTube. Wow, I tell you what, I still cannot get the YouTube to recognize the Logitech camera. It works fine on Twitch. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But at least I do have this as an alternative. So we're going to give this a shot and see how she works here. We're back for part 2 on this board. And I've got my birch board that I painted brown. I've got my ruler here that I'm going to be making my grid out here on the board with. And I've got a pile of my veneer here sitting to the side. And just as a reminder of what we're trying to do here, I've got this pattern. And this is what I'm trying to accomplish. I got 4 different colors cut out of these little squares and triangles of this pattern. I do not have my background cut out yet because I haven't quite decided exactly what I want to do with that. I had an idea and then talked to a friend and she gave me a couple other ideas that I might try to do with it. I don't know. I'll have to wait until I get to that part. But I know around the outside border there will be a 2-inch border around the sides of it because this design measures 8 inches by 8 inches and my board measures 12 inches by 12 inches. And so I know that I'm going to have to put a border on the sides of it and the bottom and top. So we've got that established. Now we need the grid laid out on the board so we know where to put the squares and the triangles. So since I'm doing this in a 1-inch grid, I'm going to have to make my lines 1 inch apart on here. And I'm going to make them going up and down and side to side. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my veneer out of the way before I spill that everywhere. Because I got all these little pieces cut out. And I don't want to misplace those, so I'll set them off to the side along with the pattern there. Now, we're going to need a marking utensil. I'm going to use me a pencil here, and I'm going to start making some little lines across here. And we're going to make them 1 inch apart. I'll make them at the top and the bottom. And connect all of those, and then I'll make them on each side and connect all of those. That's where we're going to start with the grid. Now, it's not going to be a big glaring line. I probably could have used some chalk to draw it out with, but I think pencil will do fine for me to see what I'm trying to do here, even though this is a chocolate brown board that I painted up, but I wanted you to see the process of laying out the grid. This is part 2. We've got to get the grid laid down. Then we can start placing the pieces. Now, I've had suggestions on how to go about gluing it down. There's been some people come to me and offer some solutions and different methods. And apparently, here's something that I didn't know. Now, maybe you all knew this and I didn't. This is just something that came to me in my mind that I wanted to create. I didn't realize that apparently this is a craft that people have been doing forever. Go figure. Called marquetry or parquetry. And it's laying veneer down on an object and making a design out of it. I came up with the idea because I'd been thinking about my granny's quilts and her quilt patterns and different ways to use quilt patterns. Because here in the Midwest, I don't know, what in the country that you're in or in the part of the United States you might be in, they may not do this, but here in the United States, out in the country, they have gotten in the habit of making these great big, like 6 by 6 foot, or even 8 by 8 foot plywood designs up on the sides of barns that are quilt patterns, old Dutch quilt patterns. And they make them real colorful. And it's gotten to be a big thing that everybody likes to hang them up on their barns. Something pretty, I guess, for people to see as they go down the road. Something kind of decorate the farm up a little bit, I suppose. And I thought, you know, we could do that in a smaller scale, something that you could hang in the house. And remember Granny's old quilt patterns with, or even quilt patterns that you happen to like. Maybe you didn't have a granny that quilted. You know, not everybody is as fortunate as I did to have a granny that knew how to do that sort of thing or was inclined to do that sort of thing. So this might just be quilt patterns that you like. That's how I came up with this idea. You can do these as simple or as intricate as you like. My granny used to even she did all kinds of fancy designs and stuff with her quilts, which was fancy for that day. It's not so fancy now because, man, have they ever increased their vocabulary when it comes to quilt patterns. But she used to take even just scraps that she had that she didn't really feel were suitable for fancier quilts that she was making, and she would do what was called a crazy quilt. And it was just taking a piece of fabric and laying it down. And I mean, it might just be an old rectangle, and she'd lay it down kind of sidewise, and then she would tack another piece to it, and then it might be a square, and then she might have a triangle up here. You know, just different sizes and shapes and colors of fabrics, and she'd piece them all together into a square, and it wasn't any pattern in particular. It was just using up all these pieces that she had. And then once she got that all put together, she'd make it out into, you know, add other squares and stuff to it, and lay it out as a quilt top, and quilt around all these odd shapes that she had in this quilt. It's called a crazy quilt. So you could even do that with the board. You have a bunch of veneer left over from something, and you just want to lay it down in a pattern on your board, just, you know, something to decorate up with a little bit, something a little different. There's an idea for you. But anyway, as I say, I'm learning as I go, and it's been pointed out to me that this is something that I guess a lot of people do, and I had no idea. I thought it was just something I cooked up in my feeble mind. But as a result of all that, I've had people making suggestions on different ways to glue this down. And since this one is going to be such an intricate design with these little 1-inch by 1-inch pieces, the ideas that they're laying out really are not that practical for what I'm doing. If you were using bigger pieces, you know, maybe 3 or 4-inch square pieces, that might be an alternative. Not such an alternative with something like this, because they're too tiny. And the reason I'm saying that is, as suggested, that I use some tape and tape the pieces together with the good side to the tape, and then when I flipped it over, I could have the glue all down on the board, and just flip the tape over onto the board with the side, what you call the bad side or the wrong side, glued down, and then once it dried, you pull the tape off of it. Well, when you're dealing with little intricate designs like this and pieces of tape, I'm just not convinced that I would get it squared up right. So I'm not going to do that. And it was suggested that I'm struggling with this. I don't look at it as a struggle. It's a process. It's taking something that I've seen in my mind's eye that I want to turn into an object of art. and the process of getting it from my head to the actual object. That's the way I'm looking at this. And I'm trying to show you how I go about doing that. To me, there's no real struggle. You know, it's just a process. And it takes as long as it takes. You can't rush it. If you try to rush it and, you know, do something that doesn't feel right to you, then it's not going to turn out the way you want it to turn out. And I'd rather take my time with it. And if it takes me 10 videos in order to get it laid out there, then it takes me 10 videos. And I'm not trying to frustrate y'all in watching all the videos on it, but I want you to understand the process of creativity here and what goes into it. Now, your mileage may vary. When you do your project, if you say, hey, I want to duplicate what she did, but I don't want to do it her way, fine. Great. I mean, what works for one person is not going to work for another person. In my world, things are not instantaneous. We have gotten so in this life that we want everything now. And everything is automated. We have microwave ovens to fix our dinner in 3 to 5 minutes. Whereas back in the day, you know, it used to take a half hour to 45 minutes to get dinner on the table. The cooking process and the preparing process. Now you go to the store, you buy something in the frozen section, you bring it home, pop it in the microwave, you've got dinner. 3 minutes, you're done. You know, I've got to wonder, push comes to shove one of these days, and let's just say that, you know, I'm not going to be a doomsday slayer here, but I'm going to say, what if the grid went down and you didn't have your microwave? What if the stores was all closed? They didn't have no food in them. What would you do then? Because you're used to microwaves and you even your stove in your kitchen. What would you do if you didn't have no way to cook nothing? Do you know how to build a campfire and be able to fix you some victuals? Do you have alternatives if you didn't have all these wonderful new inventions? Do you know how to go through a creative process? You know, that's what some of this is about. And hey, I'm not putting down the new inventions and the power tools and all that. There's a place for that, and I think it's wonderful. You know, we all need those things in our lives to make our lives easier. But there is also something to be said for the creative process of being able to actually put something together from scratch and understand exactly how it works. Now, I've got my grid laid out, and I know that I want to start in the center of it. I want to do the center 4 squares. So let's determine exactly which are the center 4 squares, because we don't want to get screwed up here and say that, oh my goodness, well, I started it down too low or up too low or off to the side too much. We want it right in the center. So we know that our board is 12 by 12, and we know that half of 12 is 6. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll put my finger there. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we know that this is one of the squares. So I'm going to make a little mark right down the center of this square here. And we know that this is one of the squares because it's right above it. That would be 6 from the top and 6 from the side. And then we know that this is going to be 6 from this side. And this would be 6 from the other side. So we got our 4 center squares right there. That's where we're going to start with this. And I didn't get my lines any too straight. Probably should have just used the straight edge. Why don't we do that? And lay out some lines here on this. Because once you have the center figured out on it, then it's a matter of just going around a circle around the center. There we go. That's a little sharper right there. Your line's laid in. Now I'm going to look at my pattern here. And I need to make lines going the other way as well so that I have it marked off in a grid, in a square grid. So let's do that. Oops. My straight edge moving on me. There we go. Now, you can see that good. I can see it on the camera, so I know that you can see it good too. So we got that laid out. Now, let's get the pattern down here, right beside that, so we can look at it. And we know that these 4 squares right here in the center are the ones that we're working on here in the middle. So let's get some triangles up here, because that's all done in triangles there in the middle. And we're going to need 2 triangles of each color. So let's just start there. I may need to trim them down some. I'm not saying that they're exactly the right size, because this is veneer and it's it's stubborn to be messed with. I know those two look similar in color, but once we get them crissy-crossed up there, they won't look so similar. And those are red. Okay, red and blue and 2 different shades of lighter color. Alright, so I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to put well, I'm getting hung up on things here. It's cold in here. I got a jacket on. Try to keep me somewhat warm. Now we've got this green color right here in the center of the bottom, and the pieces would go out like so. Actually, that ain't matching up too bad right there. And this one would go right here on this side. Okay. I mean, it ain't exact, but hey, this ain't rocket science, so I'm not going to get worked up about it. Now, we've got this one. We want to put right there for where the blue is on the pattern. I'm not sure I'm doing that right just yet. No. I ain't doing it right just yet. See, that's why you want to kind of fit it down first and get an idea of what you're doing. It's got the corner over there. Yes, like that. Okay. It's like putting a puzzle together to get it exactly the way you want it. Now, we got some blue ones here, and I'm going to put them over here where this purple is. And they just fit right in there. Like this. We're going to just kind of dry fit them first to see that we got them where we want them to go. This one has a little teeny tiny speck on the edge of it. See right there? Let's see if I can cut that off without breaking the veneer. I think I can do it. I think I can. I think I can. Yes, I can. Hee 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 hee. Be that little train that could. See, and that's going to fit in there like that. And then we're going to take this red veneer. Once in a while, you're going to miss a little speck of a corner. I'm not going to cry about that. I'm not trying to create perfection here. I'm trying to create a pattern that I think will be pretty. So we got this one right here. There. And that will be your center. Once it's glued down, it'll be squared up a little bit more. But that's the idea. You get the idea of the 4 colors being laid in. And you can tell the difference in the color. See, this one's just a touch lighter than what this one is. So there is a difference in those colors. You got red, blue, the lighter color, and then the kind of medium tan color. And that's what's going to start us out. That's your square right here in the center. The blue represents the purple. The red represents the red. The green is represented by the light color. The blue is represented by the light color, and the green down here is represented by this tan. Okay? And that's what's going to make up our pattern. So, what I'm going to do is cut this off. I'm going to glue them down, weight them, and then before I come back, I will probably even put in the second layer. I want the first layer to dry good, and then I'll come back in with the second layer, and there's going to be it's a total of 5 once the border is put down, but I will do the first and the second row of squares. This is the first row, then we'll have the second row, and then the third row is where I'll be starting to lay in this background along with the pattern around here. And so I'll probably come back and do some of that for you in another video and show you the progress that has been done before I try to put in the last layer in the border. And then to finish it all up, we'll be putting some more ice resin on it. So this is going to be an ongoing video series here for a few days. And in the meantime, I'm learning how to use OBS with YouTube to be able to get these videos out, since Google doesn't want to recognize my Logitech camera for whatever reason. I don't know what's wrong with Google this week. But there you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. And check out my Patreon store, my Etsy store, my Twitch channel, my Twitter, my Instagram. All those URLs are in the description of the video for your convenience. You've probably noticed I got a little slideshow going up here on the top of the screen that shows some of the items that I have made and have up in the Etsy store. And if you have any questions about anything, leave it in the comments or drop me a message. I'm easy to locate. Even my email's in the description of the video. Only one thing left to say, and that's Brenda's Crafty. Be like Brenda.